The majority of Satanists do not believe in Satan, God, the supernatural, or the afterlife. They are atheists. They don't believe in demons or in casting spells. To them, Satan symbolizes pride, liberty, and individualism. Satanism is a philosophy that encourages freedom of choice and places great emphasis on worshipping oneself. It is a life choice, a way of living, not the worship of the devil, Satan, or any other being. Satanism represents an ultimate rejection of Christianity and the belief in prayers, instead opting for a more go out and change things for yourself attitude. In the words of Anton LaVey, there is no God, there is no supreme or powerful deity in the heavens that cares about the lives of human beings. There is nobody who gives a shit. Man is the only God. Man must be taught to answer to himself and other men for his actions. Contemporary Satanism emerged in the mid-60s when Anton LaVey founded the Church of Satan. LaVey, an atheist, was born in 1930 in Chicago and from a young age was amazed with the supernatural. Joining the circus at the age of 17, he travelled, performed, had a brief relationship with Marilyn Monroe and explored the rationale for worshipping a higher almighty God. LaVey couldn't understand how it was possible that sat in heaven was a God watching ordinary people suffer and came to the conclusion that God was just a fantasy. He searched for a being that he felt understood the everyday plights of humans, those of temptation for example. This search brought him to Satan, the one being he thought who actively encouraged self-indulgence. Failing to find a satanic movement to join, LaVey developed his own, establishing the Church of Satan in 1966 and publishing the Satanic Bible 3 years later, which has subsequently sold over 1 million copies worldwide. The 1960s was a period of social change which saw many new religious groups emerge out of the youth counterculture. Youths who joined these new cults were widely believed to have been brainwashed. In the early days, LaVey's followers would gather at his house where he would conduct rituals. After carrying out a satanic wedding, baptism and funeral in 1967, LaVey found international media attention focusing on him and his church. Satanists do believe in magic, but not that of the spell-casting kind. Satanic magic is split into 3 categories: sex magic, compassionate magic, and destructive magic. These include satanic ritual, which, contrary to popular belief, does not include sacrifice or torture, but offers an opportunity for a Satanist to relieve and release built-up emotional pressure that may be negatively affecting their life, like a form of self-therapy. It may also include using one's natural innate abilities to curse and manipulate people. Satanists are often shown to wear robes and have elaborate altars during their rituals. This is purely theatrical to rouse emotions. In the 1970s, a number of independent satanic groups formed. Some continued to follow LaVey's philosophies, whilst others chose to break away and develop their own. The most prominent group to form at this time was the Temple of Set, a group of former members of the Church of Satan who disagreed with LaVey's ethical stance chose to develop their own philosophy with a greater emphasis on empowerment and fulfilling their purposes in life. At around the same time, the police became increasingly worried about youths who they believed had joined the satanic cult movement and were widely reported by the media as devil worshippers. Police's assumptions were formed based on their dealings with gangs of juvenile delinquents who took drugs and dabbled in black magic. The 1980s was a dramatic turning point for contemporary Satanism with some drastic consequences, beginning with the emergence of survivors telling of satanic cult ritual child abuse. The survivors' stories gained huge media attention, from newspaper reports and magazine articles to the survivors themselves appearing on television chat shows. Health professionals widely believed these survivor stories, pointing attention to the consistency of their stories with others from different parts of the country, the obvious emotional turmoil they experienced when retelling their stories, and the fact that under hypnosis, these women revealed the same details. The psychiatrists widely believed the survivors' severe emotional problems were the result of suffering torture at the hands of satanic cults, who they believed were criminal organizations guided by satanic ideology. Many of the women who told their survivor stories were also diagnosed with having multiple personality disorder, and the aforementioned evidence is now widely discredited. These stories and negative media attention were astronomically damaging for Satanism. Rumours quickly surfaced of current satanic child abuse as a result of survivor stories and spread rapidly. By the end of the 1980s, satanic ritual abuse was accepted as fact by the police, social workers, journalists, and therapists. Academics argue that satanic cults were socially constructed as scapegoats, providing cover and diverting attention away from greater social problems. When societies experience inner conflict, they often turn their attentions to seeking out an outside demon, a group they can blame for society's ills. This acts as a pulley for society, enabling them to bond when faced with the threat of outside demons, creating cohesion within society. In the late 1990s, a case of alleged satanic ritual abuse against children in Rochdale created a media storm when 17 children were forcibly removed from their families by social services after a 7-year-old told his teacher about killing babies and black magic. It was established that the children had all been victims of a satanic cult which had abused them during satanic rituals. The social workers who removed the children were found to be Christian fundamentalists who had interrogated the children to achieve the desired results. In 2014, it was widely reported that the late Jimmy Savile had been part of a satanic cult which sexually abused children, whilst others dressed in cloaks had watched. Around the same time, the Hampstead satanic child abuse allegations had surfaced, in which 2 children had alleged they had been the victims of satanic sexual abuse at the hands of several teachers and parents from their Christian primary school and the priest from the adjoining church. The allegations were later found to have been false and the result of the children's mother abusing them into making the allegations. However, the consequences were horrific. A witch hunt quickly began and innocent people feared for their lives after they were targeted by vigilante groups. Even in the 21st century, Satanists are perceived by society to be criminals who are part of a cult, who worship the devil and have involvement with drugs, prostitution, pornography, sexual abuse, and the torture and sacrifice of children and animals. They are believed to hunt down and recruit teenagers who show an interest in occult magic. Teenage Satanism is a widely accepted concept in today's society, although whether this relates to well-informed teenagers who have chosen to follow the philosophies of LaVey's Church of Satan or refers to teenagers who choose to wear black makeup and black clothing sporting satanic symbols is widely open to interpretation. This latter suggestion is consistent with the broad academic view that teenagers' behaviour is often misinterpreted as satanic because of their fad behaviour and their legend trips. Jack Katz, a professor of sociology, concluded that teenagers are drawn to black magic in much the same way as they are drawn to vandalism. He suggested that to them, it's all about the thrill they experience when they get away with something that is considered morally wrong by society, as opposed to the thrill they feel from the actual activity itself. Teenagers are well documented to adapt their behaviour and life choices for the pleasures gained from shocking adults, for example by wearing clothing which features satanic symbols. The only symbol trademarked by the Church of Satan is the sigil of Baphomet, although they do not oppose to their members using other symbols, such as the inverted cross or pentagram varieties if they wish to do so. Part of the satanic cult conspiracy theory is the belief that adolescents and children are being targeted and influenced by Satanists through music which holds subliminal messages, encouraging children and teenagers to carry out acts of violence and self-harm. The belief is that this music, usually heavy rock, is brainwashing those who listen to it into becoming criminal Satanists. One technique is known as backmasking, where a song when played backwards reveals hidden messages, although when played forwards, these messages are also subconsciously registered. 3 well-known examples of this are Michael Jackson's hit Beat It, the Eagles' Hotel California, another one Bites the Dust by Queen, but most famously Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven, which reveal Here's to my sweet Satan, he'll give you 666, all of which you have listened to during this video, although the non-lyrical versions. In reality, the Church of Satan does not endorse criminal behaviour, nor does it seek to actively encourage teenagers to join. In fact, unless their parents are already good standing members of the church, they will not be allowed to join until they are adults. Satanism does not promote the use of physical violence towards others, instead suggesting followers use their innate magical capabilities to curse and manipulate people. Contrary to popular belief, Satanism also prohibits sex with children or animals, but encourages all forms of sexuality between consenting adults and encourages members to explore alternative sexual practices, but this is by no means compulsory. What Satanism, and especially the Church of Satan, does encourage is the joining together of like-minded people who remain individual at the same time. This is not a religion which expects you to follow certain codes of practice or be bound by particular rules. Despite the presence of the 9 satanic statements, the 11 satanic rules of the earth, and the 9 satanic sins, these are intended as a guiding hand through life, where members are able to use the key points which best relate to themselves whilst discounting the parts that don't suit. An important aspect of Satanism is an adaptation of the Golden Rule, also known as the Wiccan Rede. If it harms no undeserving person, do what you will. Satanism encourages self-worth, with a heavy focus on making yourself happy by whatever legitimate means. Satanists should seek to please themselves. This includes valuing their independence, consumerism and materialism. As Satanism is a truly self-centered religion, the biggest holiday of the year should be each individual's own birthday. Apart from this, Satanism does not have set holidays, although many choose to recognize pagan holidays as formed by the equinoxes and solstices. Contemporary Satanism is misunderstood by most, portrayed incorrectly by many, and causes panic amongst the majority. Sure, there are people committing acts of violence and sexual abuse who call themselves Satanists, but these are generally part of some kind of cult of devil worshippers. These are not true Satanists. With a top-end estimate of 400 Satanists in the UK, it is not difficult to see how out of proportion moral panics surrounding Satanism have been. The unknown should not be feared, it should be explored, to allow enlightenment and cohesive understanding, expelling myths and stereotypes.